News time on QTV. First, to take a look at the headlines. 3 people have died while 6 others have sustained injuries in a fatal road accident involving 6 trucks on the Great North Road. President Edgar Lungu has been called upon to give his position on the latest financing trends report by the Financial Intelligence Center (FIC) for the year 2018. The government has been urged to ban the export of raw materials following the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. With the news in detail, my name is Machamanda. 3 people have died while 6 others have sustained injuries in a fatal road traffic accident involving 6 trucks which occurred 5 kilometers south of Isoka district on the Great North Road. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says involved were Mishek Gwewa, aged 37 years, of unknown address, who was driving a Scania truck and trailer registration number AJE 2310, AJA 4795 from south to north, loaded with a unknown number of bags of soybeans destined for Nakonde, with 6 passengers on board and 5 other trucks and a motorbike. Mrs. Katongo says the accident occurred on Monday, the 3rd of June 2019, around 09 hours. Happened when the Scania truck loaded with soybeans developed a defective brakes and in the process rammed into the 5 motor vehicles and a motorbike. She said the driver of the Scania truck died on the spot alongside 2 other passengers, one of whom has been identified as Gilead Kasonde of Mpika, while the other body was still trapped in the vehicle. Mrs. Katongo says the passengers are admitted to Isoka District Hospital, while 3 others from the truck sustained slight injuries and were treated as outpatients.
3 people have died while 6 others sustained serious injuries in a road traffic accident which occurred today, 3rd June 2019 at about 09 hours. It happened 5 kilometers south of Isoka district on Great North Road. The accident happened when the Scania truck loaded with soybeans developed defective brakes and in the process rammed into 5 other motor vehicles and a motorbike. The driver of the Scania truck died on the spot with 2 other passengers. One of them is Gilead Kasonde, while the other one had not yet been identified and the body was still trapped in the vehicle. 3 passengers were admitted in Isoka District Hospital, while 3 others from the other trucks sustained slight injuries and were treated as outpatients.
President Edgar Lungu has been called upon to state his position on the latest financing trends report released by the Financial Intelligence Center (FIC) for the year 2018. Civil rights activist Bren Bachangala says the onus is on President Lungu as the appointing authority to ensure that all those mentioned in the report are prosecuted. Mr. Changala says he finds it depressing that despite the FIC making glaring revelations of thefts through corruption, there seems to be no lasting solution to the pufferage in government. He has told QTV News that it is high time the Zambian people rose up and defended their little resources in the national treasury. Mr. Changala says that he does not understand how an individual in the civil service can fund the construction of 49 houses using his salary, if not only through stealing from the treasury.
One individual is revealed in this report of building 49 houses. I don't know for what. Even selfishness must have a limit. What are they going to use those houses for? It's not even worth it morally. It's not worth it. But the onus is on the president, since he's the man in charge of this administration. When are we going to hear his voice? The Financial Intelligence report says they have surrendered this report to relevant investigative wings, but we haven't seen any movement. Year in, year out. If anything, last year we only got one minister who is being celebrated in cabinet, as I talk to you today. He's a hero. And these are the people who are driving this country into a bottomless pit. Theft has become their mandate.
The Rural Electrification Authority REA has officially handed over 13 grid extension projects to ZESCO and a number of solar power projects to the Ministries of Health and General Education, carried out at a cost of 70 million kwacha. Speaking during the handover ceremony of the projects in Lusaka, RIA Acting Chief Executive Officer Clement Chiwele says the authority has spent 47.4 million kwacha on the grid extension projects, while 23.7 million kwacha has been spent on the solar projects handed over to the Ministry of General Education, and 1.3 million kwacha has been spent on solar projects for the Ministry of Health. Mr. Chiwele says all the solar projects are for schools and rural health centers in Kalomo, Isoka, Chama, Lundazi, Lukulu and Mwinalunga districts. We've got more in the following report.
The Rural Electrification Authority, RIA, develops the Rural Electrification Master Plan in 2008, meant to facilitate the realization of the 51% access rate for the rural areas by the year 2030. The plan identified 1,217 rural growth centers, which are to be electrified mainly by grid extensions, solar home systems, off-grid hydropower stations, and off-grid solar power stations. And today, the authority has handed over 13 grid extension projects to ZESCO and a number of solar power projects to the Ministries of Health and General Education. RIA Chief Executive Officer Clement Chiwele now explains.
The Rural Electrification Act of 2003 placed a huge mandate to the authority. As we are aware, the authority is a special purpose vehicle for the electrification of the rural areas in Zambia. In the year 2000, according to the national census, only 3% of the rural areas in Zambia had access to electricity. The government through RIA intends to improve the access to electricity by the rural areas to 51% by the year 2030.
ZESCO Acting Managing Director Webster Musonda had this to say.
I'm happy to say that these grid extension projects will not only get more customers connected to the national grid, but will also improve and reinforce the existing ZESCO networks, as well as firm up capacity to support increased connections.
And Ministry of General Education Permanent Secretary Dr. Jobix Kalumba was also present.
We have seen in our schools, in our health institutions, that RIA and ZESCO have done a great job in ensuring that power is supplied to these institutions. Maybe the people who are living in Lusaka and Ndola, in the urban settings, you may not appreciate the value of providing power to rural areas. Some of us who are coming from those remote areas, we really cherish what ZESCO and RIA are doing.
Martha Katambi, reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
The Zambia Land Alliance, ZLA, has proposed that the vision statement of the National Land Policy be changed to a Zambia where equitable access and secure land ownership for all citizens is guaranteed as a basis for sustainable development. ZLA Programs Officer Jacinta Kunda says after deliberations on the contents of the draft land policy with 12 other civil society organizations, it has been noted that the vision statement and part of the rationale seem not to be corresponding with one another. She adds that it has also been observed that while the situation analysis is lengthy, some of the identified problems have not been adequately analyzed. Mrs. Kunda says it is proposed that the former be made more concise and consistent in the way information flows in the document. She adds that the CSOs appreciate the commitment demonstrated by the government in cooperating with them in this key initiative and sincerely hope that the process will be finalized as soon as possible.
So we worked through and came up with certain gaps that we observed as NGOs. If you look in the booklet, there is the general observation that we have observed in the draft land policy, and we are saying that the draft land policy does not appear to have a goal and an overall objective to which all the specific objectives will be fitting to. So if there is no overall goal, what are we fitting into? What will the draft land policy be looking to? And further, the vision statement and part of the rationale seem not to be corresponding. So if we have the vision statement and then we are talking about the rationale, these things are supposed to respond to each other. They should talk to each other. If anything, the entire document should talk to each other. All the components should relate.
Some residents of Sinazongwe district in Southern Province have complained that they are not benefiting from Mamba Collieries Limited and Kolam Coal Mine, but are instead victims of various human rights violations emanating from the process of extracting coal. They have complained that Sinazongwe lacks adequate safeguards to ensure the necessary balance between development efforts and protecting the rights of local communities. They have accused Mamba Collieries of being adamant when engaged to discuss how they can develop the community. They have further blamed weak government policies and lack of information for their vulnerability. This came to light during the two-day Southern Province District Alternative Mining Indaba, organized by the Council of Churches in Zambia, the Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, Norwegian Church Aid, among other partners. We have this report.
Communities in areas where mining companies are operating in Sinazongwe district face poverty, unemployment, among other things. Sinazongwe district is endowed with valuable minerals which, if well managed, can contribute to economic growth and reduce poverty. Sinazongwe district is housing one of the largest mining company in Zambia, Mamba Collieries Limited and Kolam Coal Mines. Despite having these two mines, some residents feel betrayed as they have not benefited from these mines. This came to light at the Southern Province District Alternative Mining Indaba, organized by the Council of Churches in Zambia, Center for Trade Policy and Development, Norwegian Church Aid, and other partners. After noticing that key stakeholders, namely Sinazongwe District Council, Mamba Collieries Limited, and Kolam Coal Mine were absent from the Indaba, these stakeholders expressed their displeasure.
They have not been invited and they are not here. Why are we sitting here then? Because we are seated here to find out whether these recommendations and resolutions have been made. And the truth is that there is nothing. We are coming from these villages, we are here in Mamba, we are residents of Mamba, and there's nothing that has ever been done in accordance to this report that I am holding in my hands.
I think
The problem here with the MCO is that they are not reaching within the other states.
Yes,
I'm outside the box. You will think someone is telling them not to come because of some certain powers.
One of the recommendations which came out is that we should have a yearly Indaba where we discuss these issues. So it's not something that is new even on their table. It's something that we already discussed. We should have this interaction so that at least we remove the misconception between the company, the government, and the community.
Council Churches of Zambia General Secretary Father Emmanuel Chikoya encouraged the stakeholders not to give up.
And any attempt to deliberately derail this process by being absent, I think should not be entertained. We still have to talk, but we still have to engage them and ensure they come.
Later, Southern Province Assistant Permanent Secretary Abraham Kondomone has called on the community in Sinazongwe district to continue lobbying for investment from these mining companies, a statement that angered the community.
The social cooperatives of villages, we lobby. We lobby. It's not that they're getting to say, can you do ABC? We lobby.
Somehow it's discouraging and disappointing. I am one of those also who believe this MCL, definitely they are there, they are saying, even if we cry, even if we go, you see, we get inside to the gates. There is definitely that protection that nobody can shake. That's what I wanted to say.
No wonder we are finding challenges as a community in Mamba, because Mamba Collieries is told, don't entertain any community member until he passes through the EDC.
Father Chikoya, who is also District Alternative Mining Indaba chairperson, says time for begging is over.
And what we are saying to us is that, we have begged for too long. We should not be going to the investors' table to get the crumbs. They paid a school with lime and whatever, and then we get the crumbs. No, we need to move from being beggars to being a people that are in power. So we need to begin to demand. There's nothing that will ever be given to us on a silver plate, I can assure you.
Favorite Kalando, QTV News, in Sinazongwe District, Southern Province.
Government has been urged to quickly introduce a statutory instrument to stop the export of raw materials in view of the enforcement of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA. BIZED campaign founder Evan Singoma says now that the AfCFTA is in force, government should ensure that none of the minerals in Zambia leave the country in raw form. Mr. Ngoma says this is the best way the country can benefit more from the trade treaty. He says this is besides encouraging entrepreneurs in value addition to improve on their production.
We need to be seeing our goods being found in the rest of the other 22 countries that have signed the African Continental Free Trade. I think, and then to the statutory regulators, we're talking of Zambia Bureau of Standards, Zambia Consumer Standards Authority. Please work hand in hand with the producers. Make sure that you monitor each and every stage in the manufacturing processes to ensure that we do not compromise on issues of quality, packaging, and also after-sale services. That is the only one which is going to make our industry stand out among the rest. So here is an opportunity for once. Before we had only the market here in Zambia, but now they'll find a very big market to satisfy.
Forests in Zambia can contribute up to 4.7% to the country's gross domestic product, GDP, if ecosystem services are accounted for. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, estimates that this contribution could rise to 6.3% with the application of multiplier effects of ecosystem services. And HIVOS Regional Advocacy Manager William Chilufya says HIVOS's concern is that the expansion of the agricultural sector is harming Zambia's forestry. Mr. Chilufya has told a journalist on the sidelines of a workshop dubbed Forest and Farming for the Future that his organization has since partnered with the stakeholders on how forests can be sustained.
And also this food comes from agriculture. And when we see that this food which is coming from agriculture, and agriculture itself is now harming a forest in most cases. And the forest is the one that brings rain. So you find that at the end of the day, you have some climate change issues, droughts and those that are coming in. So in this meeting, we're interested in exploring ways in which we can have all these forest farming and food linked together, and so that they don't have against one another, but they all want to contribute to improving the food system in Zambia. So we have colleagues that have come from the Netherlands, from the Netherlands Embassy in Zimbabwe, and also have colleagues that have come from Rome, from FAO itself.
The Lusaka Water and Storage Company has attributed the low water pressure being experienced in most parts of the city to the low voltage being experienced at its Chilanga booster station and water treatment in Kafue. Company Public Relations Officer Nshamba Muzungu says due to the low voltage at Chilanga booster station and the water treatment plant in Kafue in the last few days, with water production and transmission has been below capacity. Mr. Muzungu says the water utility is engaging with the power utility, ZESCO, to see if they can supply them with adequate levels of voltage to enable the process of water production and transmission to run smoothly. He says as a result of this development, customers that are supplied through the main transmission line from Kafue will continue experiencing low water supply until the problem is rectified. Mr. Muzungu says the other parts of the city, which are supplied through the Lusaka Water and Storage Company boreholes, have not been affected and will continue to receive water normally. The Lusaka City Council says the 1 million plus daytime visitors to the city, most of them residents from the satellite districts, commuting in and out of for business, are putting pressure on the city's sanitation system. LCC Acting Director of Public Health, Edgar Mulwanda, says the population of the city goes up during the day, thereby increasing demand for service delivery. Mr. Mulwanda has named commuters from satellite districts such as Kafue, Chongwe and Chilanga as those that are contributing to putting pressure on the city's sanitation system.
It's not as I rightly put it. It's some research. So you probably, if I tell you are quoting, you can just quote that if a population shoots, others put it for 3 million, 3.5, others even as high as 4 million in a day's population, considering that Lusaka, geographically, Lusaka ends as Animone. On the other end, it's the State Lodge. On the other end, it's Baobab. But you find that a number of people from surrounding areas work in Lusaka, and apart from those who work in Lusaka, there are also those who are in transit. They come from all over the country, passing through Lusaka. Maybe within a day they move. So that's no wonder they say daytime population is different from night population. With night population, most people would have left.
MTN Zambia has observed that Zambia is no exception to the impact of irresponsible waste disposal. Speaking during the launch of the MTN Zambia 21 Days of Yellow Care in Lusaka, MTN Zambia General Manager for Corporate Services Mwenzi Mulenga says there is a rising concern for waste management and the impact it has on the environment. Ms. Mulenga says this is why the MTN, through MTN 21 Days of Yellow Care, has partnered with local authorities, government and the communities to help address various welfare concerns, by this year focusing on mitigating the impact of indiscriminate waste disposal. She adds that MTN's partnership with Manja Pamozi initiative is in line with the company's vision to have an inclusive society where communities benefit from their resources.
So likewise, I truly believe that it takes a community to build a nation. The communities that we come from, the ones that our children and the larger population come from, cannot thrive without our collective efforts, and we can see that right here. So taking this into consideration, over the years, MTN Zambia has embarked on initiatives that place great value on the welfare of our communities, because it is from there that the little steps that we take become the foundation or pillar for nation building. Through the MTN 21 Days of Yellow Care, we have partnered with local authorities, the government, and communities to help address various welfare concerns across well-being and education. And I think that's what we're talking about in terms of education for all.
Speaking at the same launch, Manja Pamozi coordinator Mishek Simwinza says the people who collect waste for recycling in communities are earning between 2,000 kwacha and 4,500 kwacha in a month, which he describes as a good way of empowerment for the local people. And Zambia Breweries Better Ward manager Ellen Kafwembi says the company is pleased to have partnered with MTN for the betterment of the developed environment and the country at large.
The Manja Pamozi initiative is one such initiative that falls under the pillar of circular packaging, where we as a company have seen our contribution to the waste problem that is in our country. So almost 4 years ago, we set out to develop an initiative called Manja Pamozi. So Manja Pamozi is a community-based initiative in which we wanted to educate and sensitize the community on the possibilities around recycling of packaging waste.
These are entrepreneurs, like Elaine and Mrs. Menga had mentioned. Entrepreneurs in the community who we have identified that have the business acumen and are able to manage a collection or a cluster of people that are making those collections. And then at the top of the pyramid, we have people who we call processors. These are the people who offtake or buy off the collectors, the people that are collecting these materials from the communities.
We've now come to the end of the news, but before we go completely, here is a recap of stories in the headlines. 3 people have died while 6 others have sustained injuries in a fatal road traffic accident involving 6 trucks on the Great North Road. President Edgar Lungu has been called upon to give his position on the latest financing trends report by the Financial Intelligence Center, FIC, for the year 2018. And government has been urged to ban the export of raw materials following the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. That will do it for the news. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, and God bless.